my SAT was 1510, which is
Wow.
like on the
Yeah.
higher side, so it was a decent score.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's video where we have with us Maitreyi, who is a student studying at St.Andrews in Scotland, and she's going to talk about her experience. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Maitreyi, like he said. I'm from India, and this is my third year in St.Andrews, and I'm doing management.
Yeah. And I saw that you're doing a combined program like you're doing a bachelor's and master's, or just bachelor's?
Right, so there's like a common misconception, and I have to explain this to my mom every time as well.
Yeah.
So the Bachelor's of Arts program at St. Andrews is actually called Master of Arts. It's not actually a master's. It's just the honors program's name. But the science program is just called Bachelor of Science. So no, I'm not doing an integrated master's.
Okay.
It's just the bachelor's, but we also have that option here.
To do the master's in 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So when and why did you decide to study abroad?
Right. I think it started when I was 14. So I did the ICSE curriculum in grade 7th and 8th, and we had to do Hindi, compulsory Hindi, and I did not do a lot of Hindi like before that because I live in Chennai and it's not really a language there. So I really want to just run away from that. I think that was like my primary objective. So I switched to the international curriculum, so it's called IGCSE. So at that point, I knew that my career is going to go in that direction, wanting to study abroad. So I did IGCSE, I did the A-levels, and my mom was also really supportive and sort of encouraging of applying abroad. So yeah, it's just been a thing since then.
And which universities did you apply to, and why did you end up picking St. Andrews?
Right. So I applied to obviously you have to apply to 5 universities in the UK. So I applied to Cambridge, UCL, LSE, Durham, and St. Andrews. I also applied to like some Ivy Leagues in the States, but it was just like a blind shot. If I get in, well, okay, otherwise it's fine. And I didn't get in. I wanted to obviously go to Cambridge. That was like my first option. So I got an interview from there, but I didn't get selected past that. And then I had to pick between Durham and St. Andrews. I picked St. Andrews because multiple reasons. First thing, just the culture over here. Like I didn't want to go to a university that had like a typical English sort of culture. And it's very international here. And when I say that, it's not just like, because I mean, I've noticed in other universities in the UK, there are like a good proportion of UK students. But over here, there's like a good mix of Scottish, English, American, obviously Asian students. So the internationalism is something that drew me to this place, as well as the fact that St. Andrews as a town is small. So the universities, it's kind of like Cambridge and Oxford, it's spread across the town. So we literally call it a bubble here. So you go out to the shops, you're definitely going to meet someone that you already know.
Yeah.
So just that sort of close impact sort of environment. And because I was just coming out of a boarding school, which is like 400 students.
Yeah.
I didn't want to directly go to like a huge university, getting lost in the city vibe. I didn't want that. So this seemed really ideal for me. And it's definitely proven to be like that. So it's great.
Yeah, and you're studying communications or management, right?
So I'm studying just management, and then we don't have like minors, so we do a bunch of modules. But I applied to study economics here, and then I switched to economics and management, and then I dropped economics and I'm just doing management. Which is like the best part of the Scottish modular system. It's so flexible. Like you can start off with like any subject, you'll end up doing another, which is something America offers, but it's not usually found in the UK.
Yeah. And did like the economics program make a difference between Durham and St. Andrews?
Oh, as in like in my decision?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was really good in both places. So that was sort of my prime, that's why they were on my list of universities. So my secondary sort of considerations were the factors I explained before. So I was kind of indifferent when it came to economics.
Yeah. And so what was the application process to apply to St. Andrews?
So obviously like through UCAS is just the usual personal statement, recommendation letter and stuff. But I didn't know this until after the application. You can also apply here through common application. So you can save on one of your UCAS slots and just apply through common application. And I also I did the SAT for the Ivy Leagues. So I submitted my scores here and they recognize it and they sort of consider it. So it's a bonus if you have it. But yeah, it was just pretty straightforward with using UCAS.
So you can apply to 6 instead of 5 colleges.
I mean, yeah, if you use college application, then you're actually applying to 6.
Yeah. And did you come across any scholarship opportunities for international students when you were applying?
Yeah, actually, St. Andrews has a lot of some of these scholarships. It's more like financial hardship funds, that sort of thing. But they have a lot of options. So I applied to a tuition fee scholarship and an accommodation one. So it was a total of £5,500 that I get each year.
Wow.
And it's one-off, they don't change or review it. So it's really good. And I think the best part about the Scottish government is that they allot a lot of money towards education and the universities. So even when you're here at university and you have a point where you're facing a hardship of some kind, a sudden situation, they have funds that you can apply to. And it's helped me in the past before. So it's good in that way.
Yeah. And what were your high school grades and TOEFL, IELTS scores like? I mean, even SAT scores, since you mentioned that.
Yeah. So I did the A-levels. So my A-level grades were AAB, economics, physics, and maths. I also I had 2 AS level subjects. They were also A's. And then my SAT was 1510, which is on the higher side, so it was a decent score. And I also did a subject SAT, so I did maths level 2, and I got an 800 on that. And on TOEFL, I got 108.
Wow, that's a very high SAT score. But one second, so about the grades, so that's about 90 to 95% if you would have to put that in.
Yeah, closer to 90, not the higher 90s, more of 85 to 90. Yeah.
Yeah, and what tips do you have for studying for the SAT?
Give it enough time. I think with the SAT, obviously, if you look at the questions at first glance, maths, English sections, they're not hard at all. The real trick is sitting through that exam for 3.5 hours, 4 hours straight and being able to concentrate. So building up your concentration skills, reading a lot of books, those are things I would focus on rather than just focusing on the material directly.
Yeah. And so basically practice it and practice reading, take a lot of the practice tests.
Yep.
And what extracurriculars did you do in high school?
So because we were in boarding school and you don't have your phones, you just do whatever you can find. So I multitasked a lot. So I did whatever I thought of or I'm slightly interested. So I was in the student council. So I was the head girl and the vice head girl. I was part of the football team at district level, basketball team at state level. I was also part of the school debating team, so we'd go for inter-school events. But yeah, I just did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot of stuff. And what's your favorite part about Scotland or St. Andrews?
Not the weather. I would never say the weather. It sucks. It rains a lot. But probably some of their food items. Obviously English breakfast, Scottish breakfast, really nice. But just shortbread or Scottish tablets, just the sweeter, unhealthy stuff, but the food is great.
Yeah. And is it, from your experience, is it easy to get, let's start by talking about part-time jobs, research, and internships while you're in college? Yeah.
That's kind of a tricky question because with part-time jobs, it's really different because it's a small town and we literally just have 3 streets of shops. So if you want to have a proper part-time job, it's really competitive. So that's kind of hard. Internships, jobs, obviously within the UK, St. Andrews is really renowned. We have a huge alumni network and people have gone on to work in very reputed firms. Our career centers amazing. They support us. They have a lot of resources. And like my colleagues and seniors and people I've just observed, they have easily found internships. So yeah, we have all the resources and we have sort of the head start because like we're at the university. So jobs and internships relatively great. It's stronger in certain fields like consultancy or not, I wouldn't say for research because I'm not really read into that a lot. But yeah, part-time jobs not so much. Jobs and internships, yes.
Okay, that's very helpful to know for anyone that's planning on coming there. And so I know that you're part of an organization called College Catalyst that helps students with the application process. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So it was just formed a few months ago by like one of my juniors. She's called Sakshi Moore. And it's a great initiative. It basically, being in a boarding school, it's harder to keep students motivated, thinking about colleges, keeping their aspirations high. So that's where we come in. We're not just helping them with their, like the regular, like the application process of reviewing your essays, not just mundane things like that, but we're also sort of catalyzing their motivation. So pushing them forward, holding regular talks, like things you do as well, but just like on a lower scale. So yeah.
And is it geared towards boarding school students or anyone in general?
So currently, because we just started off, we are focusing on our own school, but it's open to anyone. Like we've had external students come to us, ask us for help. So if anybody out there also wants some help, support, you could just get in touch with us.
Yeah. And what are your plans after graduation?
So like this is like the peak period because I'm in the second half of my third year, so I'm thinking about this a lot. I am probably hoping to get a job in like marketing communications. That's my first priority, or maybe backup HR sort of fields. And so I'm just building my resume towards that. But this is what I'm currently looking at. I could possibly work within universities because I have like a lot of work experience around that. So yes, multiple options. Just
I know
it's a risk.
Yeah, it's hard to actually say what's going to happen later, but and any advice or any regrets that you have? Any regrets first, and then any advice for students that are applying to college right now?
Well, my regrets will form my advice, so I'll just give you advice. This is just like a social advice. When you come to university, especially if you're coming from like, you're an international student, you're coming from India to a completely different culture, like don't overthink it. Like it's okay. Everybody here is as nervous as you are. Just that, mundane advice. And just be yourself and just, don't hesitate to show your culture, show your personality, just be really open. And I mean, it's easy to like in your first year, I kind of did that. I was really reserved and I was really sort of hesitant about who I was really showing myself to be. So yeah.
That's good advice, I think. And anything on the application process side, like before coming?
I mean, I think with applications, especially in the UK, like the main thing you really want to do is make sure your grades are good and not just your board grades, like throughout your high school career. And obviously other things like make sure you apply to your scholarships in time because they all have deadlines. So keep an eye on them. Get involved in all the online events for prospective students, network, get to know people within the university. That'll be really helpful when you come here.
Yeah, I think online events right now would be a big thing too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. That is all. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me and share your experience. Yeah.